So by now, most of the Democratic candidates have released their plans to take on climate change. So now, if you rate some of the more progressive plans versus the least progressive plans, you'll have something that looks more like here you have Bernie Sanders with the Green New Deal, Tulsi Gabbard with her support of this, what was the Stop Act. Um, might not be right on that one. But Elizabeth Warren also has a less progressive plan than Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard. However, still fairly progressive. And then going down the line, you've got technocratic solutions from people like Andrew Yang. And then basically at the end, at the most conservative, you have people like Joe Biden who are going for a more centrist middle ground approach. When he's not like plagiarizing from other people's plans. So now, if you're wondering why the establishment candidates are pushing middle of the road approaches to climate change at a time when most Democratic voters rank the environment and climate change at number two, the second most important issue aside from healthcare that they're going to vote on this election, well, you'll be shocked to find out that it's not because voters want a middle ground approach. No, it's because these Democrats are getting funded by fossil fuel companies. Now, this is according to a new report in The Intercept. Now, the Progressive Policy Institute, note the irony in the name, right, is actually a centrist Democratic think tank. And they have received about $50,000 from Exxon Mobil in 2018 via its parent organization, Third Way Foundation. And you guys know who Third Way is. So that's basically the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. So now, this is according to the oil giant's 2018 Worldwide Giving Report, in which they are giving worldwide in the form of carbon pollution. But anyway, oh no, this means money, to be fair. Now, PPI's director, Lindsay Lewis, defended her use of the money. She said it was for general support and that, quote, we only accept general support funding from corporate interests. We do not do paid for research or have any donor run programs because as a think tank, having donors pay for research. I mean, what do you think kind of research or programs or whatever paid for work Exxon Mobil would have you do? Oh, maybe the kind of work that sheds doubt on climate change or sheds doubt on some of the solutions to climate change that have come out. Right. So now Lewis also said that this is the first time Exxon Mobil had donated to the Third Way. Well, lucky for them that Exxon Mobil decided to come around and be magnanimous like that. Now, my guess is, well, Exxon's like, we already bought all the Republicans, lock, stock, and barrel. We own the Republican Party. So I guess we're going to buy more Democrats now. We already have people like Joe Manchin. We already have people like Joe Biden. But, we're going to buy some more and make sure that we can, kind of stamp down on this resurgence of green environmentalism inside the Democratic activist base. Stop ideas, dangerous ideas, like the Green New Deal. Yeah, we got to stop that. And so here we have a situation where you have Third Way, the centrist think tank, taking all this money and giving it to a so-called progressive think tank. I know, right? It's a bastardization of the name progressive. Now, The Intercept also notes that PPI's new donor isn't really a dramatic shift from its normal fundraising records. For example, The Intercept's Akala Lacey had also found that the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, or PhRMA, has annually donated between $25,000 and $75,000 to Third Way since 2009, upping its donation to $265,000 in 2016, the same year that Medicare for All entered the national spotlight. By the way, Third Way, obviously, opposes Medicare for All, and so does the Progressive Policy Institute. But Medicare for All is progressive policy. Hilarious to see Progressive Policy Institute actually fight against progressive policy, but that's what they are. So obviously, PhRMA wants to derail Medicare for All, so they give to this group in order to push BS studies against it, to push BS messaging, and to fight against any attempt to try to get us away from our multi-payer insurance system, right? Our broken insurance system. So, what pharma is doing for healthcare, Medicare for all, Exxon Mobil is obviously doing for climate change. So now the report also noted that ExxonMobil, part of its giving, not only to turn us away from things like the Green New Deal and to have more quote unquote moderate solutions, because even ExxonMobil knows that, man, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're kind of going to get screwed. So we've got to do something just a little bit that won't hurt our profit margins. Yes, again, magnanimous of you, right? Um, Now, they say that ExxonMobil is now softer on climate change than before. By the way, ExxonMobil was a company back in the 1970s that knew that climate change was a real thing, a real phenomenon. And what did they do? They decided that they would, of course, suppress that knowledge so they can make an extra buck. Now, The Intercept writes that rather than paying people to say that there's no problem at all, as they have traditionally done, ExxonMobil is looking to rebrand as a good faith actor in the climate fight with pay-ons to carbon capture technology, low carbon fuels, uh, algae, carbon taxes that also conveniently exempt it from some lawsuits and regulations that it happens to be most worried about. Interesting, because you have, of course, a lot of cities that are suing ExxonMobil for the effects of climate change. Now, this, they say, will allow ExxonMobil to get credit for not denying the science anymore. I don't know about you, but ExxonMobil gets no credit. None at all. It's amazing that they're trying to do this. But even they're like, we got to do something because people know the truth and they're pissed. Now, they're also trying to get, again, credit for not funding organizations that deny climate change or spread climate denialism anymore. Now, they still fund politicians, however. They don't fund groups. They don't fund the think tanks anymore, so they say. But they still fund politicians that openly deny climate change. For example, no, let me go back to the think tanks, right? Now, they say they don't fund think tanks, but they actually do. Manhattan Institute's a good example. Now, they received $970,200 from Exxon between 2008 and 2018. Now, the Manhattan Institute, again, is a right-wing think tank that has members that deny climate change. For example, MI senior fellow Robert Bryce. He said back in 2011, science is not settled on climate change. Another MI senior fellow, Orrin Cass, last year authored a report arguing the potential costs of climate change are overblown, suggesting that many people prefer warmer temperatures and could adapt easily to global warming. That is not how that works. That is not how evolution works. I'm just saying. All right. In addition to Exxon, MI is funded by the Mercer Family Foundation. Rebecca Mercer, a key financier of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, runs the foundation and sits on the MI board. This is still getting money from ExxonMobil. Exxon also continues to give large donations to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and remains a member of the American Petroleum Institute, each of which has fought hard against environmental regulations and climate measures. Now, there's another man that gets funded, and this is where the link between the PPI and ExxonMobil comes into play. Phil Goldberg. He is the director of PPI's Center for Civil Justice. He has fought against lawsuits brought by cities devastated by the effects of climate change, and by the way, the law firm that Goldberg is in, it works for it, right? He's a partner to this law firm. Also defended the tobacco industry in their denialism when it came between the link between smoking and cancer. So he has a history, and now he's working at PPI, the supposed Progressive Policy Institute, funded by Third Way, funded by ExxonMobil, to come out and defend ExxonMobil and oil companies against lawsuits. I mean, that's amazing. Goldberg is also a former lobbyist for the coal company Peabody Energy, who was brought on as a special counsel by the National Association of Manufacturers back in January of this year as part of its Manufacturers Accountability Project, or MAP. Now, that that project was founded in 2017 to take on so-called activist litigation against big oil companies. Exxon Mobil is a member of the National Association of Manufacturers, and the MAP project has been among the most active bodies fighting off climate-related legal action while also donating generously to climate denial groups over the years. Lewis said Goldberg works with PPI in a volunteer capacity only and is not employed by the Third Way Foundation. Oh, okay, so he's a volunteer. He's not getting paid for this. So I'm assuming that he's just, he just loves fossil fuels so much. He loves Exxon Mobil so much and these oil companies and these natural gas companies that he just works for free in order to protect them from litigation, from the damage they cause through their emissions of methane and carbon into the atmosphere. Sure, nobody buys that. Nobody believes that. And you know what else nobody believes? How Exxon Mobil is giving to Third Way and PPI because they care about rehabilitating their image when it comes to the climate. No. What they want to do is they want to fund politicians that will continue to do nothing about climate change. Now, look, on the Democratic side, there's a lot of big plans, but not everybody is serious about their plans. Again, you take somebody like Joe Biden who talks about a middle ground approach, right? Who's literally been caught plagiarizing sections of people's plans. Do you think Joe Biden is going to be serious about fighting climate change? Look, if you're not serious about creating your own plan, then why would we ever think that you're serious about actually taking action and doing something bold? He even says, no, we're not going to do anything bold. No, we're just going to do middle of the ground, middle of the road. We're going to be friendly towards these corporations, which emit 71% of the emissions in this country. And, we're going to do that middle ground, and we're going to make sure we protect the corporations and their profit motives because they're important. No. What we need to do in the climate is something bold. Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders have two of the best plans that, by the way, complement each other. Those two plans work with each other. Bernie Sanders, the aspirational plans, right? Big and bold, and Tulsi Gabbard with the enforcement. These are good plans. And it would facilitate a rapid transition of our energy system away from fossil fuels, while also guaranteeing economic justice for people who happen to be displaced. No coal miner, no oil rig worker should be left behind by this progress. And through the Green New Deal, they won't be. That's the whole point. So if you're looking for someone who is going to do something that is needed when it comes to climate change, Joe Biden and centrist Democrats funded by Third Way and ridiculous think tanks like the Progressive Policy Institute aren't it. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.